podcast. I'm a psychic medium and spiritual coach, and I come on here to help bridge the gap between the spirit world and the physical world in order to provide awareness that we're not alone here and that our past loved ones are still in a beautiful place, as well as just live healthier, happier lives for the time that we have here on earth. And this is your sign, if you're seeing this message, to be kinder. Just be a kinder human being. To do things for others, do acts of service, and not be afraid of other humans. From a very young age, we're taught to fear strangers. We're taught to not speak to people unless we're spoken to. But some of the most profound spiritual connections I've made is through talking to strangers that I just happened to bump into. And some of the most profound spiritual experiences I've had as well has been when I've been helping others and connected to my heart in giving to someone else. And I think that we all can kind of get really busy in our days and honestly get kind of selfish and very self-aware, but kind of turn off our awareness of everyone else's divine essence within our lives. And even the people we don't know that we come into contact, I believe, are on our path for a reason. So I'm going to tell a quick story about something that happened yesterday that kind of awoken me to this again, because I can get in my own head too. Yesterday I was visiting my grandmother. She lives in the memory care portion of an assisted living, and it is beautiful. It's not like the movies, I would say. It's like a college campus, but they just have to get signed out if they want to go somewhere. And they all have separate bedrooms that are kind of like mini apartments, but they all eat together in like a really nice kind of communal dining room. And so we were having lunch in the dining room, and everybody that's living there is a little bit out of it, to say the least. And this woman who doesn't talk, she usually has her head down and just kind of like, she's younger too. I would say she's in her early 60s. But she doesn't speak much, and she always has her head down and just kind of grumbling to herself. She was watching me and my grandmother talk, and my grandmother was having actually a pretty good day where she was able to like hold a conversation and stuff. And the woman looks over at me. We kind of had come to a lull in the conversation between me and my grandmother, and the woman kind of yells over. She looks up at me and she's just staring at me, and she's like, "The island is beautiful, huh?" Like, she makes no sense. And old me, and I think most people in the world would have been like, "Oh gosh, here we go," and like turned off the communication and been like, "Yep, and gone back to talking to my grandmother. But something told me to talk to her. And that's my intuition. That's my connection to something bigger than myself that knows that every single human that I come into contact is of divine essence, and we have light to share with them, and they have light to share with us. So I turned to her and I looked her dead in her eyes, and I said, "That island is pretty beautiful, isn't it?" And she said, yeah, it is." And I said, "Well, I'm so glad you noticed how beautiful it is." And then I pointed out to the window and I said, Did you notice how beautiful it is outside today? All the trees are," and she put her head down and started grumbling and kind of being like, "No, I'm worried about, something that just nonsense." And I reminded her and I said, No, I want you to look outside. Look at how the sunlight is hitting those trees." And she looked at me funny and she looked outside and she said, "It is, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what life is all about. You don't have to worry so much." And she looked at me funny and she got up and she came and sat at the table with my grandmother and I. My grandmother's like half coherent and she's like, and I just the woman is talking nonsense, and I just looked at her in her eyes and I just responded with kind words that reminded her of the beauty of this life. And I spoke to her soul because I know her soul is there and her soul is thriving and in a beautiful place. And it's just her mind isn't connected to the soul, to the human experience, and something is a little bit misaligned. But she's in there, And, I'm going to respect her, and I'm going to share light with her, and hopefully it soothes her enough to just sit and not be so anxious for a few minutes, and sharing that light and sharing that love made me feel good. I feel like I impacted her day in a positive way, and I think that by her persona and her kind of attitude, like, she felt calmer, and made me realize how many people go there and sit with their loved ones and have dinner and don't talk to anybody, and just, the people that are there alone are there alone. We encounter those kind of people throughout our days all the time. And if you see somebody that looks lonely, if you see somebody that looks like they need a little light, share your light. That's what you're here to do.